Now, welcome to our 50th Battle of the Heroes and Villains, where this time we'll be not only taking a look at the results of the poll for BB8, and then I'll be reading and responding to some comments later, but we'll also be taking a bit of a closer look at our current top 50. And what I plan to do is just sort of run through the whole thing and give some candid and unscripted thoughts about pretty much everyone on it. I always get asked how I would rank the characters, so this will kind of be a quick and condensed version of that all-in-one neat little package. But before we get to any of that, you can already head down and nominate and or vote for who will be our 51st character. Just respond to my pinned comment below with a name or vote with a thumbs up if the one you'd like to see is already listed. Whatever single comment gets the most votes in the next 24 hours or so will be the winner and the one we do next. Alright, and let's now kick this off by quickly looking at the results for BB8, where we'll see that 8% of voters thought he belonged in the A tier, 21% then went with a B, 42%, just a little less than half, thought he was about average and gave him a C. 16% then said D, and a final 13% gave the little guy an F. And so when we do all the math here and consider A a score of 5 and F a score of 1, BB8 ends up with an average score of 2.95, which puts him into 45th place overall, and down there with basically all the other sequel trilogy characters. And speaking of that, yes, I will give my normal disclaimer that since I'm not a huge fan of the sequels, that's likely to be reflected to some degree in those who watch my videos and hence in the results of the poll. In other words, he'd probably do at least a little better if this poll was conducted by a more pro-sequel trilogy channel. But anyway, let's now dive into that top 50, which is not exactly the top 50 all-time or overall. Obviously, there are characters we've yet to do that will push plenty of the current ones in the top 50 out of the picture. Though that said, I don't think there are too many big characters left that will shake up the top parts of the list. The only thing that may move things around is when we re-vote on some of these characters who have been seen elsewhere since we first voted on them. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is run down the list and give my thoughts again on pretty much every character on it. And the funny thing is, I haven't really done this before. I haven't really taken a deeper or closer look at the list, which I know is strange because I'm the one who compiles it and adds to it every week. And I really do enjoy analyzing and looking into things, as you might know from watching my channel. But I haven't done that yet, so let's begin at the top with Obi-Wan and Vader. And I absolutely think they should be 1 and 2, and I think they should be in that order, and the fact that they're 0.03 of a point apart is pretty good. I think third place R2 actually should belong to Luke Skywalker, or maybe Luke should be even higher if the sequel trilogy had been different. It's also worth noting that we ranked Luke before Season 2's finale of The Mandalorian, so if we did him again now, he might climb this list just a little bit. That was kind of a little healing after a lot of people were disappointed with Luke in The Last Jedi. Again, R2 at 3 seems just a touch high. I would put him probably 4th place. And in 4th place, we have 5s, and this is probably going to get me a little heat in the comments. I know I have a lot of people who love the Clone Wars, and I myself love the Clone Wars, but 5s is too high on this list. He should, maybe in the top 10, but I don't think he should be the 4th highest rated character in all of Star Wars, and again, feel free to disagree with me in the comments. Rex at 6, again, maybe a touch high. Yoda, Leia, Ahsoka, all I think belong in the top 10. Din Djarin, another one, maybe has a little bit of recency bias to him. He's a great character. I'm loving him so far. Top 10 Star Wars character, that's hard to give him. Han Solo, Qui-Gon, I would probably move them closer or into the top 10, kicking out Rex, 5s, and Din Djarin, but again, feel free to disagree with me, and I know some will. Revan, I think, is a pretty good fit at 13th. 99 at 14th is, again, maybe a touch high. Palpatine / Sidious in 15th, I think he should be much higher, closer, if not in the top 10. Thrawn at 16th, if you've read Heir to the Empire and all his books, he is a fantastic character. They did a great job with him in Rebels as well. Not as good as maybe they could have if it wasn't such a childish show, but 16th seems pretty good for him. Chewbacca at 17th feels maybe about right. I could see him a touch higher than that. 18th, Anakin Skywalker is a surprise, again, especially since I have a very pro Clone Wars audience and prequel trilogy audience. I'm kind of surprised. Now, I do think the prequels brings him down and the Clone Wars brings him up, so maybe 18th is about right. Darth Maul in 19th. Now, it needs to be noted that was done before Season 7 of Clone Wars, so I could see him inching a few spots up. And he's a character a lot of people are asking for a revote on, and when I start doing those, I will certainly probably put him first on that list. Hondo in 20th. Okay, he's a really fun character. 20th might be a little high. Lando 21st. I think that's low. I think Lando should be a few spots higher. Tarkin in 22nd. That's a tough one too. Not a lot to Tarkin, but he makes the most of the moments he's in, which is mainly the original, or A New Hope, I should say, as well as a little bit in Rogue One. 3PO in 23rd. I understand that one, even though he's part of the duo, and R2 is sitting there in 3rd, and he's way down here in 23rd. But I think people just prefer R2 over 3PO, which isn't to say they hate 3PO, but he's just not the same as R2. Cad Bane in 24th is the second highest rated bounty hunter behind Din Djarin, and I find it interesting he's ahead of Jango Fett and Boba Fett sitting there in 29th place. Now, Boba Fett was another character that got voted on before his big return in The Mandalorian, and he has an upcoming show, so there is every chance he will skyrocket up this list when his time for a revote comes. Commander Cody in 26th, that seems about right. Cal Kestis in 27th. Now, I think he's a character that could shoot up the list, another one of those. If he is seen elsewhere, if he is in the next Fallen Order game, which I'm assuming he is, lots of room for growth there. Kanan in 28th, I think he should be a touch higher. I could see him a touch higher. I think a lot of people did not watch or enjoy Rebels, and he suffers a little bit from that. Dooku in 30th, Mace Windu 31st, Plo Koon 32nd. Those all seem about right. Padme in 33rd seems really low. Asajj in 34th. Yeah, I could see that, especially if you haven't read the book Dark Disciple. Hera in 35th. Now, this is another character I could see making a move at some point. She just had her own little story arc in The Bad Batch. She's been in games. She's been in books. I think she's a character they want to do a lot more with. So I could certainly see her moving up the list in time. Mara Jade in 36th. Now, this is the one that hurts me the most. I am a huge fan of Mara Jade, and I think she suffers from not a lot of people, having read the Expanded Universe or Legends and really knowing the character and voting and just not knowing how amazing she is. She also suffers from not being in the new canon, which I really wish they would have found a way to bring her in. 37th, General Grievous. 38th, Kit Fisto. 39th, Savage Opress. Those feel about right, I suppose. Pretty average characters, and we're kind of getting into more average characters overall here. Sabine Wren in 40th. Again, another character from Rebels that maybe suffers a little from being in a show not everybody watched or really enjoyed. Now, I enjoyed it, and I think she's going to be in the Ahsoka series. I'm 99% sure of that, in fact. And so I could definitely see her moving up the list as well. Jyn Erso in 41st. Again, maybe a little low. I know the big knock on Rogue One is the characters were not fantastic, even if the movie itself was really good. Ezra in 42nd. I'm kind of okay with that. I think he is going to also be in the Ahsoka series and have a chance to move up. Kylo Ren in 43rd. Finn down there in 47th. Two characters that I think had a ton of potential that was wasted in the sequels. You also have Rey, who I thought was fantastic in the first half of The Force Awakens, and it was all downhill from there. And as I've said before about these sequel characters, nobody went into those films wanting to hate the movies or these characters. We all wanted to love them. Some fans, unfortunately, didn't like the films, don't like the characters, didn't think they were handled that well. I tend to agree with those people. So, again, not surprised to see them all very low on this list. Not surprised to see Rose and Admiral Holdo at the very bottom of it. Also in there, we have Barriss Offee at 44th, which I think is fine. I think she's another character that could be seen elsewhere. She could end up being an Inquisitor. Maybe she ends up showing up in the Ahsoka series. So I think there's another character that has room for growth. And I know I've said a lot of characters have room for growth, so not all of them can do that. We'll also bring in new characters. So when I say a character may move up, mainly I mean they may hold their spot against some of the others below them moving up. Anyway, the last one on this list to talk about is Jar Jar Binks, and I was a little surprised to see him finish this low. I thought he might finish higher, and I know a lot of people do not like Jar Jar, but the man behind him, Ahmad Best, is a fantastic person, and I thought that might bring him up a bit, and maybe it did. Maybe that's why he did finish as high as he did. And I don't think Jar Jar was that annoying beyond The Phantom Menace, but then again, he wasn't in much beyond The Phantom Menace except for a few episodes of Clone Wars. He is one of those that I could have seen finishing anywhere from in the top 20 to dead last. It's just, how do people feel about the character? how do they feel about the person behind the character, and, well, I guess he ended up in 46th. Alright, now that I've given my thoughts on all that, and I'm sure some of you will give your thoughts on my thoughts in the comments below, which I'm looking forward to, let's shift gears back to BB8 and get to some comments about him. But not before once again saying thank you to everyone who votes, comments, and watches the videos and has made this top 50 possible. Thank you very much to everybody. I greatly appreciate it, and I love getting to do these type of videos. I love getting to talk about these characters and seeing what other people think about these characters. Also, a big thank you to everyone who supports me over on Patreon and helps keep this channel going. And if you'd like to join them, a link to my Patreon page is in the description below. It gets you access to my Discord server where we are always doing things like this and talking some Star Wars. But anyway, let's start as we always do with the top rated comment, which this time came to us from Back to the Future Fan 88, who said, I like his design, but I don't remember him doing anything besides trying to get to the Resistance in Episode 7. After that, BB8 just turned into a character that's just there. I think they tried too hard to make BB8 the next R2-D2 and forgot to give him a story. Yeah, I mean, there's no sort of character arc there for BB8 at all. Not that there really was one for R2 or 3PO, but they still felt like characters and they still managed to feel like integral parts of the story throughout the original trilogy and into the prequels, or most of the prequels. Neither one does much of anything in Revenge of the Sith, but they certainly have a lot to do in the other two prequel films, especially Episode 1, which feels like or is or has a sort of origin story for both of them, basically. But anyway, yeah, they could have tried to give BB8 something, some sort of a little story even if it was something small or silly or frivolous, like with C-3PO talking about how much he hates space travel in the original trilogy, after we see him starting to get the hang of it, as he says in the prequels, before then getting his mind wiped, or memory wiped. It's not important to the story or the character, really. It's just something fun, and at least gives the character something, and they didn't really do anything like that for BB8. He's just there. Okay, next up here we have a comment from Ash Williams, who said, that little basketball had his moments. I really respect that they chose to make him practical. That being said, he didn't do much to separate himself from R2-D2, even having a nearly identical mission to R2's in A New Hope. Have to give him a C. Also, this comment from Alistair Gray, who said, as much as I like the droid, he seems like a discount R2. I know they were using him for marketing, and that ruins the character a bit for me. And I think you hit the nail on the head right there. When it comes to BB8, marketability was considered first and foremost, and the character itself was a distant second. This little guy was made to sell toys, and they tried so hard to make him adorable in that first film in order to accomplish that. Which isn't to say I dislike him or anything. I'm pretty neutral towards BB8. And as was pointed out in one of the comments here, he does have practical uses and does important stuff in the films from time to time. He's not just there to be there in terms of story, but he really doesn't do much, and again, he is meant to sell toys. Alright, next up then, this comment from Cameron Bleeker, who said, I've always been kind of annoyed by BB8, not enough for me to really dislike him, but it felt like they tried to replace the original duo with him, while the duo was treated as a cheap nostalgia token. Also here, this comment from Daniel Atchison, who said, quirky and characterful in himself, he is ruined by being symbolic of the Disney sequels, just a way to shove aside and denigrate the originals R2-D2 and plagiarizing them. Witness the fact that R2-D2, the point of view for the whole saga, cannot be present at the death of C-3PO, albeit a fake-out. Then there's also this comment from Blue Diamond Director, who said, BB8, while being an interesting design, ends up just being a knockoff R2-D2. He was heavily promoted for The Force Awakens, as that seemed to be his main purpose, marketing. Then when the next movie came around, he was heavily reduced as they needed something new to promote the film, and he was old news. That's the unfortunate part of the world we live in now. People need constant new things to get their attention. Gone are the days when two droids, 3PO and R2, was all you needed in marketing multiple films. BB8 is just a flash in the pan in Disney's eyes. Heck, before the trilogy was over, they already were trying to replace him in the marketing with D.O. By the end of the movies, they used him for some dumb gags in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker instead of a respectful character like R2. Lastly, he is post-droid, yet he spends more time with Finn and Rey, and somehow at the end of the trilogy, he ends up with Rey. Why? My favorite bit with him is his thumbs up he gives Finn with his welding torch. That was fun and charming and got a genuine laugh out of me in the theater. C tier for me. And first of all, I don't know why BB-8 ends up with Rey in the end. Probably just thought it made for a cool looking shot that there they were together facing the twin suns when they started their journey together, or she started her journey with him. I really don't know. I mean, Poe was shown to be really attached to him in the first film, and even in The Rise of Skywalker, he gets angry with Rey about him being crushed by a tree, which, if I'm remembering right, is about the only thing BB-8 does or has happened to him in that film. But what's really interesting, and you basically bring it up here, but there are no new main character droids introduced in the prequels. They stuck with R2-D2 and C-3PO, and as I mentioned before, even give them a sort of origin story, or show that they're here from the start, or there from the start, which I really like, since the original idea for Star Wars, as one of the comments pointed out, is that we were going to see the story through their eyes. And in the sequels, that idea gets thrown away for the sake of bringing in something new in order to sell toys. Alright, and now time for just a few final comments, and I know this is less comments than usual that I'm responding to, but with me going over the top 50 and the fact that this isn't a character that there is a lot to talk about, I figured it was almost the perfect character to do during the top 50 video. It worked out great. But anyway, let's get to a few final comments, starting with this one from Cobra Kai Kid, who said, BB-8 more like BB Great. Then there's this one from Cuckoo for Wii, who said, I love the design, but it's kind of weird technically. He's a cute droid, he does really great in The Force Awakens, but he falls off in the later two movies. I gave him a B because I'm generous, probably should have gotten a C. His imposed relationship in The Force Awakens is great. Also, we have this one from E. Skywalker, who said, I really liked BB-8, but that part of The Last Jedi with the AT-ST ruined him for me. Sadly, even he took his toll with that movie. Also here we have one from Rogthar, who said, as a main character droid, he's the worst. He's nowhere near his peers as a character. I don't see how anyone could give him anything above a C. Truly adds nothing other than another toy to sell. Next, we have this one from It's Mad Dog, who said, he is just okay. He's fun and enjoyable whenever he is on screen, but he isn't as memorable as R2 or 3PO. The only reason he really exists is to sell toys. Also, we have this one from Mod Simmons, who said, on his design, he actually looks like something that might exist 30 years after the original trilogy. Astromech technology has progressed. If only they had taken the same approach to everything else in the sequels, they might have felt less like a rehash. Also, there's this comment from Mr. Narwhal, who said, fun, funny, and cute. He doesn't hold a candle to R2 though, or even Chopper in my opinion. He gets a C. Moving on, we have this one from Star Wars or Something, who said, honestly don't mind him, to be honest. The moment where he uses the little flame to make a thumbs up always makes me laugh, even if I don't love the rest of the movie. Although he is pretty much a spherical R2 with orange paint, I'd give him a C. And finally here we have this comment from Erica Jade, who said, B, I think he's adorable and he's one of the few aspects of the sequels I genuinely loved. Maybe it's just me, but since I'm a huge R2-D2 fan, I actually noticed that the two of them had somewhat distinct personalities. Instead of BB-8 merely being an R2 copy, BB felt more like a cute, naive little puppy still learning his place, and R2 has always seemed more like a tired old dog who loves his people, but is simultaneously done with everyone's crap. Unfortunately, I do really wish they'd done more in terms of pairing him and R2 together, instead of just sidelining R2 to make room for him. Maybe people would have complained about this being too juvenile of a subplot, but it would have been fun to see BB-8 tagging along with R2 and following him everywhere like a kid wanting to learn from their chosen grown-up. The sad thing is, The Force Awakens seemed to imply that BB-8 at least wanted to talk to R2 when he kept trying to wake him up, but that ended up going nowhere and became yet another example of the trilogy's wasted potential. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think of our top 50 list, or what you think of what I thought of our top 50 list, or you can tell me what you think of BB-8. Or you can also nominate and or vote for which character we do next. Whatever the case may be, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.